Welcome to this virtual auditorium. It's something that we created in order to help to explain some of the conditions that occur in children with heart disease. Unfortunately, when doctors describe congenital heart disease, they often use very complicated terms that are often difficult to understand. And so we decided to make this series of videos in order to help us to describe these conditions in a more straightforward way, trying to avoid many of the very technical terms that are used. We're not aiming that these videos would replace the conversations you have with your doctors, but really rather to supplement them. Okay, so this is Ed. Ed is an avatar. To tell the honest truth, I have no idea where we got the name Ed, but his name is Ed. Ed's going to help me to describe the different conditions that occur in children with heart disease. So let's get right into it. First, let's describe the normal heart. And when we look into the avatar, we can see a rough outline of the heart. We can see the lungs. We can see the big blood vessels that come and go to the heart. I know it sounds odd, but I often find it easier to explain about the heart, not if I start in the heart itself, but if I start looking outside of the heart. So let's look at the circulation in Ed's hand. So here we can see the circulation to Ed's left hand. Arteries carry blood full of oxygen, shown here in red, from the heart out to Ed's hands. What then happens is that all of the cells in his hand extract this oxygen from the blood. Now the blood, having given up its oxygen, must make its way back to the heart and lungs in order to be replenished. The return of this blood that's now low in oxygen, represented in blue, occurs through the veins. As this blood low in oxygen returns to the heart, it flows through bigger and bigger blood vessels or veins, much like the way in which water flows from tributaries into a big river. Ultimately, all of the blood enters one of two big veins that enter the heart. The first of these, which drains the upper half of Ed's body, we call the superior caval vein, or your doctor may call it the superior vena cava. The other vein, which drains the lower half of Ed's body, we can call the inferior caval vein or inferior vena cava. So let's now look at the way in which blood flows through the heart itself. Once the blood passes through the inferior and superior caval vein, it enters into a collecting chamber, which we call the atrium. This atrium is on the right side, and so we call this the right atrium. All of the blood that comes back from the body and is still low in oxygen gathers in this right atrium. The blood that gathers in the right atrium passes across a valve into a big pumping chamber called the right ventricle. The ventricles are the pumping chambers. There's a valve between the atrium and the ventricle, and on this side of the heart, this valve has three cusps or three leaflets, and so we call that the tricuspid valve. Every time the heart contracts, the blood in the right ventricle is squeezed out from the right ventricle into a big artery, which we call the pulmonary artery. Pulmonary means related to the lungs. And it goes then through two big arteries, one to the right lung, which is called the right pulmonary artery, and the other to the left lung, the left pulmonary artery. As the blood passes from the right ventricle to the pulmonary artery, it passes through another valve, which is called the pulmonary valve. So the blood then travels out to the right and to the left lungs. And when it's in the lungs, what happens is the opposite to what happened in the tissues. In other words, now what happens is that the blood becomes replenished with oxygen. And then this newly replenished blood returns back to the other side of the heart through different veins, pulmonary veins. These are veins obviously related to the lungs. Once the blood is replenished with oxygen, it then once more returns to the heart through veins. This time we call them pulmonary veins. And these are the veins returning from the lungs until the blood then gathers in another chamber, an atrium, on the left side of the heart. So this is the left atrium. Having collected in the left atrium, then what happens is the blood is pumped across into this big pumping chamber on the left side of the heart. This is called the left ventricle. There's another valve between the left atrium and the left ventricle. Someone once felt that this looked a bit like a bishop's mitre, and so for that reason, it's usually called the mitral valve. Every time the heart contracts, the blood that's collected in the left ventricle is pumped out into a big blood vessel called the aorta. Between the left ventricle and the aorta is another valve, which we call the aortic valve. Once in the aorta, this replenished blood now goes back out to all of the organs of the body, including Ed's left hand. I think, therefore, we could appreciate that if your heart is to work normally, you need 4 good-sized chambers. You need all of these chambers connected the right way. We need all of the vessels coming and going to the right place, and they need to be connected properly. We need functional valves between the various chambers of the heart so that blood doesn't flow backwards. And we need a system in which the red blood and the blue blood are separated so that they don't mix. In children with congenital heart disease, there's usually a problem with one of these things. For example, there may be underdevelopment of a chamber of the heart. Some of the blood vessels may be connected around the wrong way. There may be narrowing or leaking of the valves in the heart, or sometimes because of a hole in the heart, the red and blue blood can mix. Many children have a combination of different factors. And so I would hope that in the next videos, we'll be able to explain some of the individual lesions that occur in children with congenital heart disease. I hope this introductory video has been of help.